Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the FZY Israel Tour 2024 Parent Evening. Thank you for joining us. What we're going to do this evening, we're going to try and talk through kind of like all the different areas, concepts that we think will be helpful for you to know. Where as we're coming into now, as we're coming into Israel Tour, we're only about 4 weeks away now from the Israel Tour groups leaving. And as we do that, if there are questions that you have, please feel free to put those in the chat function of the YouTube live stream. You do need to be a subscriber to the channel in order to be able to post anything in there. So if you are not and you do want to ask a question, then make sure to subscribe. Joining on the call tonight is myself. So I am Joel. I'm the Executive Director of FZY. I've been working for FZY in a variety of different roles for 21 years now. And I live in Modi'in in Israel, grew up in London. Also joining us this evening, we have Josh Foreman, who is an FZY movement worker, whose responsibility is the Israel Tour program. He's based in London and will be based in the London office throughout the summer. Also joining us tonight, we have Aaron, the Director of Incoming Tourism from Tlalim, one of our partners in the Israel Tour program, and also Adam Waters from I believe it's the title's Director of UJA Israel Experience. I think I'm right, getting a nod. And again, a further partner of ours on the Israel Tour program. What I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen now, so bear with me 1 second as I do that. And we'll talk through a short presentation. Okay, hopefully everyone can see the screen. So as I mentioned, like the FZY Israel Tour program is actually a partnership between three different organizations. There's FZY, and in a minute I'm going to pass on to Josh, who's going to share a little bit about who FZY are, who we are, what we stand for. We also partner here with Tlalim, who are our tour operator, logistical partner on the ground in Israel. And we're also partnered with UJA Israel Experience, who are a partnership between the Jewish agency and UJIA, who provide support. And throughout this presentation, when Aaron speaks for Tlalim and when Adam will speak for UJA Israel Experience, they can share a little bit more about how they're involved within that process. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass this over to Josh, who can say a few words about FZY.
Hi guys. FZY is Britain's oldest and largest Jewish, Zionist, and pluralist youth movement. And over the last decade, we've taken over 5,000 people to Israel, more than any other youth movement in the UK. And included in that, we've taken people from London, Manchester, Essex, Leeds, Glasgow, Liverpool, and more. And in FZY, we have four aims in our movement, which kind of encompass everything that we do. So one of them is Magen, which is the defense of Jewish rights, Tzedakah, Tarbut, where we explore Jewish and Israeli culture, and Aliyah Shechet, which means moving to Israel and continuing to do good for the state. So FZY, as well as the aims I just described, we are a pluralist youth movement, which means that pluralism encompasses all that we do and teach. We don't tell our participants what to believe or how to think, but in our educational message on Israel Tour, we provide the tools for our Chanachim to figure out their own Jewish identity, sharing a range of perspectives and welcoming disagreement. Our pluralist framework of how we deliver our programming can be seen on, for example, how we pray on Shabbat. So we always provide three options for any of our Shabbat services for our Chanachim, which are Orthodox, Reform, and Alternative. Shabbat on tour is a really, really special time. It's kind of the point in the week where the schedule is much more relaxed and laid back as it has been. And the tour gets to spend a lot of quality time together in a much more laid back environment. However, it is important to say that on FZY, we observe Shabbat in all public spaces, and all of our activities will remain Shabbat friendly, and all the food is also certified kosher over the whole program.
Cool. Thank you, Josh. And the reason why we wanted to kind of start with that and to share that a little bit is because the ethos of who FZY are and what we stand for and our values really is kind of like immersed very much within the program itself. In a minute, I'm just going to pass you on to Aaron, who will talk through some of the elements within the program. But I want to just kind of like give a little outline of like how we actually build our program. Like Israel Tour is an educational program. We have a core educational program, and that's based on the four aims that Josh spoke about, FZY's ideologies that he mentioned as well. And that is really a part of every day and everywhere that we go and everything that we do on the program. We also look and aim and strive to kind of like develop the young people on the Israel Tour program throughout. We have like this Jewish peoplehood. Hopefully, throughout their time in Israel, they will meet and connect with other young people from across the Jewish world who are also coming on similar Israel Tour programs and be able to kind of like really understand the bigger picture of the Jewish people. And the other two places where, in terms of how we build our program, is to do with welfare, communication, and safety and security. We'll be touching on both of those a little bit more within this presentation, but they're also key important factors for us when we're looking to build our program to make sure that we are the education is a key component, but obviously making sure that the young people are safe, secure, we can communicate with them, we can communicate with you throughout is always there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass on to Aaron from Tlalim, who will kind of guide us through a little bit about the different activities that we'll be doing on the program.
Okay, thanks, Joel. So firstly, just to introduce Tlalim a little bit more, Tlalim is one of the largest tour providers for groups such as these youth groups that come to Israel from all over the world. We have clients from all over Europe, the USA, South America, South Africa, Australia, all over the world, who have been coming to Israel with us for many years, but have also been coming to Israel with us for the past few months. So whereas maybe from the UK, youth groups haven't been coming as much recently, and the tour programs are really the kind of the flagship program that is coming in July. We as a tour provider who work with groups from all over the world have had groups doing very similar programs in the last weeks and months, similar to the program that is here on the slide here. So obviously this year there has been some changes to the program as a result of the security situation. Adam mostly will talk later about the different bodies that we work with who kind of decide where we can and where we can't visit. He'll talk about that in a bit more detail. But as a result of those restrictions, there are a couple of places that would appear on this slide in previous years, which are not in it this year, but really only a couple. I think about approximately 2 or 3 days of the schedule have been affected by the situation in the north primarily. But as you'll see here, there's still, we visit Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, the Negev, sand dune surfing in the Negev. We still visit the north, so Tiberias in the north, the area of the Itinerary. We still go south to Eilat, the Dead Sea, visit the Kotel. These are all kind of the core experiences which will still be a part of the schedule. And even areas where, for example, the kayaking, which we used to do in a certain area of the country, we've now moved that to a slightly different area to make sure not to dilute the experience and retain as much as possible of the organic program within the slightly smaller area that we're able to visit this year. Here is an example schedule. All of the groups, so there's 5 groups, 5 tours, but all of them do more or less the identical schedule, just in a slightly different order. This is an example of a week in central Israel. You can see the program is very packed, and that is on purpose. We try and pack as much as possible in so that the participants can have as meaningful an experience as possible in as short a time as possible. Again, these are some of the sites they visit, but obviously there's educational programming as well, which fits into the schedule. Here they visit, again, there's a day in Tel Aviv, a day in the Judean Valley, a couple of days in Tel Aviv here actually, and a day in Jerusalem. These are all days which, if you were on this Zoom last year, it would look exactly the same. So really, it's again a very busy schedule, and with a wide, I think, unique to FZY. Again, we work with groups from all over the world. Things like the conflict seminar that they do a Stand With Us and Solutions Not Sides. They really have a unique perspective on their Israel tour, which I think adds a lot for the participants who come.
Thanks, Aaron. So I believe everyone should have received in the last week or two their schedule for their child's Israel tour. If you haven't done, if that's something that you didn't receive via email over the last couple of weeks, then please make sure you're in contact with us, and we'll make sure we'll send that out to you. The one last thing to say on the schedule before I pass on to Josh, who's going to speak about the Maccabiah, which is an event that FZY runs as part of the program, is also like all of these programs are subject to change. What we've sent to you, there may be changes either between now and the start of the program or as the program goes along for a number of different reasons. But Josh, do you want to touch on the Maccabiah? Josh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Joel. So Maccabiah for many is definitely the highlight of Israel Tour. It's the point in tour where all the tours come together in a big competition against each other in a range of categories. Whilst tours definitely might spend time together over the course of tour in hostels and over Shabbat. Maccabiah is kind of the only point where all the tours come together. So the day includes sports tournaments, a talent show, educational displays, a trivia competition, a barbecue, a disco, and even more. It's just what's on the top of my head. And it's a really, really exciting day where all the groups come wearing their tour colors, and it's a normally really incredible atmosphere. Yeah.
Thanks, Josh. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to pass the presentation a little bit over to Adam, who's now going to talk us through a variety of different topics which UJA Israel Experience are involved in. So, Adam, over to you.
Thanks very much, Joel. My name's Adam. I represent UJA Israel Experience, which, as Joel mentioned, is a partnership between the Jewish Agency for Israel and UJIA. So the aims of UJA Israel Experience are to connect young Jews to Israel, past, present, and future, thereby strengthening their sense of belonging to the Jewish people. And this is achieved through experiencing Israel on a UJA Israel supported program, of which FZY is one of those. So overall, we support 12 Jewish youth movements and organizations, 6 of whom are running Israel tours this summer. So we're really very pleased that we're sending 500 participants from the UK to Israel this summer. In a normal year, we would send around about 1,000 to 1,100. So that is down. But the reason I point out this number is for 2 reasons. Firstly, there are roughly 1,000 other parents who have made the same decision as you. So I know for many it might have been a difficult decision to make, but you are not alone, and there are possibly 1,000 other parents who are in the same position as you and have made that decision. And also just it highlights the strength of the UK Jewish community in its response to Israel. We're about 50% of what a normal year would be. By contrast, in America, their programming for the same age group is at around about 5% of what they would normally be. So we're really, really proud. We're really, really happy, and we're looking forward to taking lots and lots of participants on Israel Tour this year. So we aim to run educational, fun, and inspiring Israel tours for 16-year-olds. And the areas that we support include Madrachim's training. We arrange the flights through our charter contract with El Al. UJIA itself provides bursaries and supports FZY's bursary scheme. We do program planning and educational consultancy for those who ask for it. And then the main area where you're likely to see us in action if needed is with communication plans and protocols and major incident coordination. So as has been mentioned already, there are three partners here. There's FZY, UJA Israel Experience, and Tlalim. One of the roles that we play in terms of the UK networks, so working with all the youth movements, is we make sure that any tour provider in Israel who wants to work with the UK youth movement adheres to certain minimum standards. Tlalim exceeds all of these. They are really one of the best tour operators in Israel. They pass everything with flying colors, and they will give your children a fantastic experience this summer. And as Aaron mentioned, they're responsible for all sorts of things: itinerary, logistics, accommodation, security, the Israeli madrachim and staff on the ground in Israel, and food, which is very important. So a key area that we focus on is training the British madrachim. So we support FZY with the selection process, and then we provide a UK training schedule. And in 1 week's time, we're taking all of the madrachim from across the youth movements to Israel for a training week seminar in Israel. We aim to develop great leaders and educators. Some of the topics they've already spent time learning about are safeguarding, consent, risk assessments, managing stress and anxiety, hadracha, behavior management, learning different narratives of Israel, Israel education, and then key for this year, which we're going to be focusing a lot on the seminar next week, we have additional security training for the madrachim. So we have an organization called Pikud HaAref, which is the Home Front Command, who are going to be coming to the seminar next week and doing a specific training with our madrachim about how to best look after the participants, from simple things like how to walk down the street in the safest way possible, how to get on and off the coach in the safest way possible, and also how to deal with a stressful situation, for example, if they were to hear a siren or something like that. So the madrachim will be getting additional training this year in those areas. And we also have a partnership with an organization in Israel called Keshev, who are mental health therapists and psychologists, and they are coming to run specific mental health training, focusing on, again, the current situation. If participants were to hear a siren, sort of the stress and anxiety that may come about as a result of that, there'll be additional training for the madrachim this year. And Keshev will also be available throughout the summer to support the madrachim in looking after your children. There is a code of conduct which you've all signed up for. When you signed up to FZY Tour, it includes all sorts of things: behavior, safeguarding, welfare, etc., etc. Please take some time before tour starts in 4 weeks to sit down with your child and just go over the code of conduct again and understand the expectations that FZY has on your child, so that we can all have the most positive experience as possible over the summer. And this is really a reminder, so full disclosure, if anything has changed from the time you filled in your form, particularly the medical form, and any particular issues your child may be experiencing, please let FZY know. We're not looking for reasons to not accept children. We want to take as many children as possible to Israel. The key thing here is for us to be able to fulfill our duty of care to you and best look after your child. So if there's something that we need to know, please let us know so that we can put what needs to be put in place and look after your child. There are also additional risks involved in that we, Tlalim, take out the medical insurance, and all pre-existing conditions are run through the medical insurer. So if there is something that isn't disclosed, it won't be covered by the insurance, and that could cause issues, which is why failure to disclose this information is grounds for removal from the program. So if anything has changed in your circumstances, or you forgot to add something to the form, please do let FZY know as soon as possible. Parental conduct. When speaking to professionals and volunteers from FZY and UJA Israel Experience, please do so with respect and patience, and we will afford you the same. So this is just a little diagram that shows what's going on. So we have Tlalim, FZY, and UJA Israel Experience at the top. We have a lot of support staff on the ground in Israel. So Tlalim and FZY provide rakazim, who are going around Israel supporting all the groups, as well as movement staff, and they're also supported by UJA Israel Experience staff on the ground as well where needed. And on the bottom there you have what the what the participants will be aware of. So they will see their British Madruchim, they will see their Israeli Madruchim, and this year there's going to be an armed security guard on every bus at all times. So that is what they will see. And so the perception we want to try and create is this group of roughly 40 young people with young Madruchim in their nice little bubble of youth empowerment, enjoying their time in Israel. But behind all of that, there's a huge infrastructure in place to support those Madruchim. So we want the participants to feel like they're on a youth trip with young leaders, which they are, but we make sure that there is a huge infrastructure in place to support them when needed. So security is the #1 priority. We aim to ensure that all participants are safe and secure, and we do a constant and holistic assessment. So by that, I mean, we're not just looking at issues that have happened that we are aware that have happened in the past 7 months. We also look at things like heat waves and other things that may impact the group. So there's an organization called Cheder Matzav, which is the department within Moked Teva, which is within the Ministry of Forestry, something or other. They look after sort of Israel's outdoor spaces. And they essentially are advised by the IDF, by Magen David Adom, by the Israeli police, by the Israeli weather service, and all sorts of things. And they put together guidance for educational groups over the summer. So every single day before the group leaves the youth hostel, their itinerary is run past Cheder Matzav, and it gets the green light. So they do not leave the youth hostel until their itinerary has been signed off by the security professionals. They are that, and that is why itineraries are always subject to change, as Joel said earlier. Things could change on the day. Very regularly, you have situations where there is a planned hike somewhere, and Cheder Matzav say, no, I'm sorry, there's a heat wave, you can't do that hike. Whatever it might be, there's lots of times where the itinerary can change at the last minute. And they may advise on different security measures that we have to take into account that day, or may advise that certain things are not allowed. We have GPS tracking on every single bus, so we'll be able to know where all the coaches are at all times. One thing to bear in mind with that, if you have an app on your phone where you track your family members, a lot of families have, sort of find my child on your phone, that type of thing. In heightened security situations, if there is expected incoming rocket fire, Israel can locally scramble GPS signals. So don't be too concerned if on your app it looks like your child is not where they're supposed to be. It should go back to normal. If you're concerned at all at any time, feel free to give FZY a call. One of the main roles we play on a day-to-day basis over the course of the summer at UJA Israel Experience is coordinating across the whole sort of UK network. So whilst your child might be on FZY Group 1, they might have a school friend who is on Bnei Akiva Group 3, or they might have a cousin who is going with Ezra this year. And our role is to make sure that community-wide response and communication is all under one umbrella. So we send daily emails to the youth movements, to FZY, after a daily check-in with every single tour provider to let them know that all tours are safe, not just FZY's tours are safe, everyone's tour is safe. So if you hear rumors or gossip or whatever it might be, there is a UJIA website, a page on the UJIA website with it's further on in the presentation. It will also be in your daily email from FZY, a link to that, which lets you know that all tours are safe. It's time-stamped. You can go on at any time and just check the status. So feel free to call FZY, and they should, if anything has happened, they will be aware of it. They will have been made aware, so they can reassure you. And you can also go onto the website at any time just to check that all tours are safe, which hopefully they will be at all times. This year, there is a security guard on every bus at all times. It's something which used to happen in the past. It hasn't happened for a few years, but that's been reintroduced this year as an additional precaution. It's not a Cheder Matzav requirement at the moment, but it's an additional precaution we're taking for the UK groups this summer. And the key thing here with the partnership of all the organisations, is it really is a high-level partnership. So we have obviously the connections with the Jewish Agency. We're a department of the Jewish Agency. We have the infrastructure of the UJA to call upon. We have high-level partnerships and contacts with the British Embassy, with the Israeli government, and also with the global tour infrastructure. You know, we're not just part of we're not just a small British organization. We're in close contact with all of our partners who run similar programs from America and other organizations. And there really is in Israel over the summer a huge global effort and infrastructure around supporting tour groups in Israel. It really is a big operation. So we hope that with all of that, we should be able to get information out as quickly as possible. So you'll receive a daily email from FZY, except for Shabbat. They'll go into a bit more detail afterwards about what else it will have. It will have their social media uploads and all sorts of things. If there is an emergency, we have a system in place to deal with that. It's possible, depending on the situation, you might get some communication from us directly. It's unlikely. Most of the time, your communication will be directly with FZY. And as I said, if you're ever concerned about anything, feel free to call them. And there's the link to the website, which again will be included in FZY's daily email to you if you want to check it out. A final thing from me is that UJIA is very proud to support FZY with the bursary program, supporting FZY's bursary program. The process is more or less finalized for this year. However, if your circumstances have changed at all, your financial circumstances and family situation has changed, feel free to reach out to FZY and it's guaranteed confidentiality. The identities of recipients of bursaries remain anonymous even to the committee who award that money. So please do get in touch if you're concerned at all. And that is all from me, and I'll hand back over to Joel.
Thank you, Adam. So I want to talk us through a few other different areas that will be involved on Israel Tour. So I want to kind of touch on a little bit about like how we care for your children throughout the summer. So one of the things that we do and one of the things that we install on our Israel Tour is a curfew. It's something that has been on our Israel Tour programs for many, many years. I just want to explain why we have that curfew, and just in case your children kind of like ask or question at any point. For us, it's a safety thing. It's like as Aaron kind of like showed us a little bit earlier this evening, like how packed these days are. We need to make sure that the young people are awake or able to, or awake or with it can like take in like all of the education that's happening on the program, and when we're going on hikes that they're not going to be too tired and not look after themselves. So that is why like we have a curfew. I mean, it's not necessarily a very early curfew. Normally the curfew is somewhere between 11 o'clock and midnight, depending on the schedule for the next day. But we do have a curfew that we do set on the participants. There are also other things like clothing requirements. You would have received from us a kit list of what the types of things that you should be bringing. But whenever we are outside, whether that's on a hike, whether that's on a city tour, there's certain clothing requirements, dress code requirements that of them. Like people need to wear hats at all times. They need to have closed shoes. They need to have their shoulders covered when they're out and about, to make sure that we're protecting them from sunburn, from dehydration, from sunstroke, for all of these things. So it's really important that if you haven't yet done so, that please do check through that information guide that you were sent by FZY a few weeks ago, which includes that kit guide, the kit list, to explain kind of like what it is that we require the young people to bring with them. There is a trained first aider who's with the group, has trained at least one of our staff, potentially more in some of the groups are trained first aiders. They'll be with the group at all times. So if there is, someone that falls over, was to hurt themselves, whatever that is, we have, someone there who is able to kind of like to look after them and to triage them. And should there be a need at any point for your children, to go to a doctor, to visit a clinic, go to a hospital, to see an expert of any kind, like that is all open and possible for us within the health insurance that we provide. There are of course limitations to the health insurance policy. So if you go onto our FZY's website, like you'll be able to see kind of like what the policy is, but it is like fairly thorough in terms of what it includes, and we have access to a wide range of medical professionals. In terms of medication for those young people who are on medication, they need to hand in their medication to their madrachim, to their British madrachim, at the start of the program for safekeeping. That way, we can ensure that that there's that this medication won't get lost. It's going to be taken from place to place. And there's a couple of exceptions on that in terms of those people that require an EpiPen, inhalers, or insulin. But outside of that, that all of the medication will be handed into the madrachim, and the madrachim will hold on to that and will make sure every day or whenever it is that they need that medication, it will be there for them. I believe Adam mentioned before about Keshev, this mental health organization of different therapists which are there in Israel, who are there to support our team in Israel. So if there are any of the young people who are going through a difficult period, a difficult time, we have access to them as professionals to help with that process too. I want to explain like how the situation works in terms of how we communicate with you should your child fall ill, require to see a doctor or something like that throughout their time in Israel. So in a non-emergency situation, we will send you an email on the same day, or it could be the next day based on the time. So if they Israel time were to be unwell, needed to see a doctor, and before 5 p.m. on Israel time and any day, we would make sure that on that day we would send you an email updating you of that situation. But should they see someone after, should they that medical situation arise after 5 p.m. Israel time, then it will be the next day that you will receive that email from us. Obviously, if it's something more than they have a bit of a headache, they fell over and grazed their knee. If it's an actual emergency, then we would reach out to you by telephone immediately, and we will keep you in the loop throughout any process that may be happening in Israel in terms of your child seeing the medical professionals. Adam touched a little bit on the code of conduct. I just want to kind of add a couple of pieces on it. Like it is imperative for us that the young people do stick to all the rules, that there are rules in place for a reason. Every single one of our rules are there for a reason, mostly to ensure the safety, security, and the welfare of the participants. And it's something that we will enforce to ensure that everyone can go through the program in a way where they will be happy, they'll be safe, they'll feel included as part of the group. So it's important that your children have read this code of conduct and understand it. We will be reminding them at the start of the program. But as Adam said, like we do recommend that that's a conversation that you have with them before they come to Israel in the summer. And we do have a discipline ladder that we work to as well. There are different stages, there are different warnings at which point your child will meet with either their madrachim, with the rakazim, like potentially with myself or some other senior staff, if it ever gets to that level. And they will be warned at every step of the way, like why their actions have been wrong and what the process is that is happening. Steps can be skipped. So if there are certain rules which that participants break, they could be sent home immediately. And we will make sure that we will update you as parents if and when your child ever makes their way onto the discipline ladder, either via email or via phone, depending on what stage of the discipline ladder they are in. And we are open all the time for you to reach the FZY office, to call into the FZY office if you are unsure, if you've heard from your child that they have been told off, or had a conversation with one of their staff. Like, we welcome you to call up the FZY office to understand what happened, and we'll be more than happy to explain that to you. So communication during Israel Tour, like Adam said, there'll be email updates every day apart from Shabbat, and we will be uploading photos where possible on a daily basis as well. Please understand that the photos are not necessarily are photos to give you an understanding of the tour and what they are doing, the activities they're doing. We will try and capture where we can as many faces and as many different children as we can, but please recognize that this is on the whole, it's the madrachim who are taking these photos, and their primary responsibility is obviously to ensure that the young people are safe and are being educated throughout the program. So please do allow us your patience if several days go by and you don't see your child in one of the photos. It doesn't mean that they're not there. It doesn't mean that they're not happy. It just means that they weren't captured. Outside, so the FZY office is open from 8:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. On Monday to Thursday, and we shut a little bit earlier on a Friday. Outside, and that's the best way to communicate with us, to call FZY on our office number, or to email through. To the numbers and email addresses were all in the information guide that we sent out. If there is an emergency outside of these office hours, then there will be, and we will send to you an emergency number to call that you can reach out to. That will be manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Please do only use that number for emergencies, so that we can ensure that line is open for whenever an emergency may arise. And please, like, wherever is possible, if it's outside of the office opening hours and it's not an emergency, we recommend that you send an email, you leave a message on the voicemail, and we'll get back to you the next day as soon as we possibly can. In the UK itself, the FZY have got a team of around 7 people who will be in our office throughout this summer, who are liaising between the Rakazim and the Madrachim and Tlalim and myself and other people in Israel about what's happening on the ground, and we'll be passing those messaging on to the FZY UK team. And if you call with a question and the FZY UK team don't know that answer, they will do their best to get that information to you as soon as possible. Please note that your interaction, your communication throughout this summer will be with the FZY UK team. And as I said, there was around 6 or 7 staff who will be there, throughout the office opening hours. And we have a policy that, Madrachim do not speak directly with the parents. The Madrachim first responsibility is to the young people on the program, and we want to make sure their focus is there. And there's another team of people around them who will be your liaison with the group. I'm going to pass on now to Josh, who's going to just share with us an experience, an option for your children this summer within our school.
So for a good few years now, we've had a partnership with the Sue Harris Trust, where they've come in to speak to our Chanachim to encourage them to join the Anthony Nolan register. So what that is basically is if someone has blood cancer, such as leukemia, the only chance of saving their life could be a stem cell transplant. But those stem cells have to come from someone with a matching tissue type, which, if you're Jewish, is far more likely to be from someone who is also Jewish. So every year there's, I believe, over 1,000 Jewish people around the world who need an unrelated stem cell donor to save their life. And now more than ever, there's an urgent need to regularly replenish the stock of Jewish stem cell donors on the National Register. And it literally just takes a few minutes to be swabbed, and you could make a life-saving difference if you are a match with someone. So we've partnered with the Sue Harris Trust to come and meet our Chanachim and offer them the opportunity to join the register if they wish to do so. Obviously, it will happen whilst your kids in Israel, so it's kind of up to them to opt out if they feel that it's not the right decision for them. But it's amazing, and it's an amazing opportunity and something we're very privileged to be able to offer our Chanachim on Israel Tour.
Thank you, Josh. So it's important, like, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it to you today is if you are not happy with your son, with your daughter, like, being swabbed, there's no pressure on us. It's a completely voluntary thing. But if you're not happy with that, then we ask that you have a conversation with your child before they come onto the program, and make a decision that is right for you and right for them. But as we spoke about at the beginning of this information evening, as an educational and values-driven organization, being involved in a project like this is important for us, and we wanted to bring it to the Israel Tour program. The final slide before we're going to kind of like open up to questions, which I think Josh has been keeping an eye on any questions that may have been coming in. It's just kind of like a few bits and pieces, a few other things which we just haven't covered, which don't fall into a specific category. Water bottles. For most days, when the participants are out and about, they need to have with them 3 liters of water. We ask that they it's easier, it's better if they bring a water bottle or water bottles with them. That doesn't mean that they need to have a single water bottle for 3 liters. They can bring a 2 liter bottle and a 1 liter bottle, whatever works for them. But it is recommended that they bring with them a water bottle, like a water bottles, which together collectively will add up to 3 liters. Otherwise, because that will save them from continually having to go and buy bottled water, or like finding other bottles for them to fill up their water, because they wouldn't be able to join in on the day unless they have those 3 liters of water. So that's important. In terms of spending money, like pretty much everything on the program is covered within the price of the program. The couple of things which I guess aren't is that when participants like maybe are visiting a market like Machane Yehuda or the Carmel market, or if they just finished a hike and they stop off at a service station, they may want an ice cream, like these types of things, like some snacks, maybe they'd like to purchase you a gift for thanking you for sending them on Israel tour. Like for those types of things, like that's kind of like where the only thing which isn't fully really covered within the price of the program. So like we recommend like a small amount, 150 to 200 pounds, so they could get their ice cream, they'll drink and bits and pieces here and there. They shouldn't really need much more money than that. We do also recommend, like they will have opportunities either to take money out at an ATM. There are a variety of different cars, whether that's Monzo, Resolute, different options which we put inside the information guide that we sent to you. So if you're not sure the best way for them, if you don't want them to bring their bank card out, or there were better charges and better rates in terms of exchange rates or commission on some of these other cards, we put a few options in the information guide for you to look into that. And we recommend that they come with a few shekels for the first few days, because it may take them a day or two before we can get them access to an ATM or something like that. In terms of mobile phones, look, this is up to you. Obviously, we live in a day now where young people want to be connected the whole time, want to be on their mobile phones, most of the time. We have a policy that throughout programming time, they cannot be on their mobile phones. So when they're on a tour, when they're on a hike, when they're listening to a speaker, when the Madrachim is speaking to them, whatever that is, like their mobile phones are not allowed to be on. Like, for example, if we're on a city tour, we recognize that people's mobile phones are more than just a way of communicating with one another. They often use as cameras. So like we will, whenever we're at a place, we'll give the participants a time to take the pictures before, either just before or just after the tour guide will kind of like share where they are and give a little bit of history about the place. Please be aware in terms of mobile phones, like we work with a company called 019. We put the information in the information guide about this as well. They offer very good packages, either SIMs or eSIMs. You provide different packages depending on how much data or phone calls, etc., that you want. They're the reason like that we work with them closely, because they're the only company that also they're the only company that are based at the airport. So if you're getting an actual SIM, they will be given to the Israeli staff, who will be ready waiting for the young people, for the tour groups when they come into Israel. So they won't need to go and deal with it themselves. Like we will pick up the SIM cards for them, or you can order eSIMs through them as well, and it will just be given to your kids on arrival. So we recommend them, but you can search around and look to see what options you may want to do if 019 doesn't work for you. Please understand and recognize that in terms of like, should a mobile phone, or and this goes not just a mobile phone, this goes to anything of value, be lost, be stolen at any point throughout the Israel Tour program, you generally will need to, in order for it to be covered on insurance, would need to get a police report within 24 hours. We endeavor to try to make that happen, but we can absolutely not make any guarantees that we can, depending on where they are in the program, which part of the country they're in, what the schedule is like, and many other things like that. So please just be aware when it comes to either bringing mobile phones or bringing other expensive items in the program, we recommend to minimize that wherever possible. In terms of travel insurance, you'll be able to see FZY has taken out a group travel insurance policy. You'll be able to see that, again, that policy is also, like the health insurance policy, is also on our website. So you'll be able to see all of the different terms and conditions within that. I know that in a previous information evening we ran a few months ago, we talked about some of the different terms within that. But like, it's a fairly standard travel insurance policy. It's pretty much exactly the same travel insurance policy we had last year and the year before. So it is fairly thorough. If you want to know the specific details, then please visit the FZY website and you'll be able to find that. Laundry. Obviously, the program is just over 3 weeks long. We don't recommend that people necessarily bring enough clothes for the full 3 and a bit weeks. There will be an opportunity once within the schedule for the young people to do laundry. That does come at a little bit of cost. It's not much. Maybe Aaron, do you know how much? Aaron, I know, is the one who works with it. Do you know how much that is?
Usually about 45 to 50 shekel for a bag of laundry. I think it's 5 or 6 kilos.
Okay, so we're talking, so that sounds around in UK money, that's around £10, give or take, for a bag of laundry. So we will offer that service to each tour group once throughout the program, as wherever we can. Again, it depends exactly a little bit on the order that they travel around the country. We'll try to make it at some point in the middle of the program as much as we can. So we do advise that they bring like a one of these laundry bags with them, but we also advise that if they need to also bring a little bit of travel wash with them, so they can just do their own washing if they need 1 or 2 small bits in the sinks in the hostels which are there. In terms of flights and deviations, we passed a while ago now the opportunity to deviate your flight from the group flights. You all should have received the information of the flights that you were on and that you'll be traveling with. And if for any reason that there needs to be a change, that's not going to be able to be processed now through the relationship that we have with Allow and the group contract that we have. What is important to know is that if you haven't deviated your flight, if for any reason you don't turn up for the outward bound flight, then they automatically cancel your inbound flight. So if you feel like you wanted to deviate, you forgot to deviate, please don't just go and make arrangements on your own and just not turn up on the outbound flight. Please make sure that you are liaising with the FZY office in the UK. And we will try and reach a conclusion and the best way to go through that process with you. I think that is all of the information we wanted to share with you throughout the slides. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to Josh, maybe if you want to come off mute. I know you've been looking at the questions which have maybe been coming in. If you wanted to share some of those with us.
Yeah, so there's a couple questions asking about free time. So they're wondering if it says like lunch at a flea market or a mall, or I guess if there's any sort of indication of them walking around in small groups. Is that do they still wander around by themselves, or is it as a group?
So I'll take this, and Alan, if I miss anything, then feel free to jump on and add. So whenever there's free time, it's within a bounded area. And before before the free time starts, we make it very, very clear what the area, where the boundary is for the group, where they can't go past. When they're on that free time, they have to be in a groups of a minimum of 3 people. They can't just be on their own. They have to be in a minimum of 3 people. There will be a spot either on the boundary or somewhere in the middle, which will be very clearly shown to the participants in advance, where there'll be a madrich at all times, so they can always find a madrich, and we will make sure that the chanachim also have, that they will have this anyway. They probably already have this, but they have the phone numbers of their madrichim, so if at any point they need anything, they can reach there. But on the whole, the free time is in a very small boundaried area, and apart, there'll be some madrichim in a specific place, and other madrichim will be floating around as well. Alan, did I miss anything? Is there anything else to add on that?
I think the thing to add is that a lot of the times when they have free time, it's for meals where they receive coupons, and we work with a company that provides those coupons in a very specific area. So it's not like they just get cash and are able to go to whichever restaurant or takeaway place that they want to. It's a very specific amount of places which are in a very small area as well. So those could be within a closed mall, in which case obviously it's less of an issue. There's security at all the entrances. or if it is outside, then the options that they're able to go and get food from is in a very small area, and the security guard will be in the middle of that area with the ability to be reached at a very short notice.
Someone has asked if there are any opportunities to meet family, but not in the center. Oh no, sorry, they've said that there are opportunities to meet family, but they aren't in the center. Is this correct, or are there any opportunities that people can meet their family in the center?
So every tour group, and it should be on the schedule. There is one slot which is allocated for family time. When I say family time, there are many people that don't have family who live in Israel or family who will be visiting Israel at that time. But for those that do, there's one time that we've put on the schedule for every group, where it's the time that we ask the families to come if they can. We've tried to make that time that place central because we recognize that that most people, not everyone, but most people, most families are in a central place. If you have family that lives in the north, lives in the south, and it's or the time that we have provided is inconvenient, then what we ask that you do, if you reach out directly to Josh or to the FZY office, give us that information. And we can try and see what we can do. Like, and no way, even during the allocated family time, at no point can a child go off with the family. Normally, the family time is at a time where they have free time within a bounded space in an evening normally, and that family time will have to take place within that bounded space anyway. So if you do have family that lives in a place and they're unable to access where the family time is, please reach out to us individually, explain to us your personal situation, where your family is based. And we will look to see if there's a way that we can make that work, but we can't make any guarantees because obviously each tour group has got 40 participants. We need to make sure that the schedule is running, fully. We can't hold up a group for like 1 or 2 visits, and we're not prepared also for the participants to leave our group either. So there may be ways of doing it, but there may not.
Someone wants to know how far ahead should Sims be ordered?
So the page is open, so you're welcome to already. Like there's a landing page for FZY, so you can go on there and you can already order them now. I believe that will take orders pretty much up to the day of traveling. It's to avoid any complications, as I mentioned before, like especially if you're ordering a SIM rather than an eSIM, the 019 will be, bundling up a package for our Madrichim for like when Tour 1 arrives, they'll give the Tour 1 staff all of the Tour 1 SIM cards. So if you're applying, if you're buying this very last minute, it may cause some complications that SIM card isn't there. So we do recommend trying to do it in advance. It is open now, but I don't think there's a specific last the time which is too late.
Someone asked how many people are in each group this year.
So each group has, I think it's between 36 to 40 participants in a normal year. Our groups normally have around 40 participants, where they're between 36 to 40 participants in each of the groups. They're fairly well balanced in terms of the split between male and female, between the sizes of the groups. So yeah, I think that all 5 groups are between 36 and 40, and in total I think we've got 191 participants who I think who are coming on tour this summer with us.
So a security question. Someone says that there's been an escalation in terms of security since the last brief, which they feel has not been reflected in the agenda in Ramat Hagolan and Elat, which are both under missiles at the moment daily.
Okay, so I'll say a couple of words and then maybe pass on to either Adam or I want to jump in. We haven't specifically referred to how many missiles are coming over, etc. Like how it was when we had the parents' evening, I think in March maybe it was, and then another one maybe a month later. The vast majority of the rockets or UAVs which have been coming into Israel are targeted in very specific areas, mainly not solely and not exclusively, but mainly in the north of Israel and a little bit around the border with Gaza. And those two areas are places that we're not visiting. There there has been a slight uptick over the last few weeks in the number of rockets which have been coming into the north. But as I said, most of those are on that northern border, not all of them. So in terms of like the guidelines and in terms of like what it is that like the way that we are operating is exactly the same as we explained a few months ago and exactly how Adam touched on this evening. And in terms of like where the Cheder Matzav and the Home Front Command is allowing us to go, it's very similar to where it was in those last parent evenings. I think that northern area has stretched slightly more further, so that it's a slightly bigger area we can't go into at the moment. But in terms of the outside of those areas which are restricted from the Cheder Matzav and places that we won't be traveling on tour, there in terms of the number of rockets or drones or other things which have happened in those areas over the last few weeks, they have not necessarily drastically changed very much over the last few months. Aaron, Adam, do you want to add something?
I think the only thing I would add is that it's not only since the last parents' evening or since, we have groups on the ground every day and it changes on a daily basis. So we've tried with the schedules that we've prepared and have been sent to the parents to reflect what is kind of the trend of what has been allowed, and therefore the schedules will reflect those areas. That's not to say that area won't get a bit smaller tomorrow or the next day. So we're very much like up with our fingers on the pulse in terms of all the Cheder Matzav, Moked Teva, Home Front Command, all the bodies that we work with. All of the schedules are with them for each day of each group's program. So each day we will check in with them and they'll tell us, actually today this area is problematic. You can't go, and we will change that. And I've been working in the companies for 11 years now. So in 2014, in Operation Protective Edge, I believe it's called in English, we changed the schedules of the groups on a daily basis. We moved their accommodations. It's something that unfortunately we have experience with doing. Hopefully we won't need to do it. And in the last couple of months, as I said, we've run several programs in Israel without having to make those changes, just by being within the green areas that Cheder Matzav allows us to visit. But if we were to need to change it, we're ready to do that. We're able to do that. And we can do that. So we've based the program currently on what is allowed right now. Eilat is allowed right now. Certain areas of the north are allowed right now. For example, you might have had in a previous schedule or in a previous parents' evening when we talked about areas that we visit, Sfat or might have been in there, and now it's currently not a green area, so it has been taken off the schedule. So that's how the things work. It's organic and it needs to be. And again, we're ready to make those changes as and when needed.
I think. Sorry, Josh. I just add as well that UJA Israel experienced staff are not security or military professionals. FZY staff are not security or military professionals. Tlalim staff are not necessarily security or military professionals, but we take guidance and advice from security and military professionals. So this isn't someone in an office in Golders Green at UJA or FZY's offices in Kenton deciding what isn't safe or not. This is guidance from the security and military infrastructure in Israel that dictates where you can and can't go.
Someone has asked if they need to take out supplementary travel insurance.
The answer to that is no, not specifically. And it may be also challenging to get. Well, like one of the things that we know is that travel insurance is not that easy to get at the moment when traveling to Israel. The travel insurance policy that we have does cover for most eventualities. Most of the things which are not included within the travel insurance have been built into kind of like some of the contracts that we have with different suppliers. As an example, like if FZY we need to cancel the program itself, that would be done based on kind of like as Adam mentioned, like the military professionals kind of like advising that that's the case. And in those situations, more often than not, the majority of the suppliers would provide a refund, and then we would be able to refund that back. But there's no cancellation policy within the travel insurance for which deals with war acts of terrorism, and I'll be very surprised if you will be able to find that on your own either. But hopefully some of the areas which are potentially missing within the travel insurance policy are kind of like built into some of the ways that we built our contracts. So the answer to that is no, but everyone needs to kind of like make their own decision, which is why we've had that travel insurance policy on our website. We want to be very, transparent about what the policy is there, and so that you can kind of have a look at it. And if you feel that there is something there which is missing, and you feel that you are able to obtain a policy which may be able to cover that, then you are absolutely welcome to do so.
Someone asked if there was a war with Hezbollah, would the program be cancelled? But I think, I mean, if you want to just kind of reiterate towards the end of what you just said about taking advice on the military.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't think there is the answer to that is either yes or no. I think that it really depends. Like a war, like I guess Israel has been in we could say has been in a war with Hamas now for 8 months, and the war looks different today with Hamas than it looked 8 months ago, and it looked 6 months ago, and 4 months ago. Like these operations, these wars, are very organic, and they change. So I guess, I mean, some people would say Israel was already in a war with Hezbollah, and other people would say maybe it's not at the moment, and maybe things will escalate at some point. But there's just as much talk as well of peace treaties at the moment as well, which are coming out. So I don't think there's like an answer to that. Like at any given day, at any given moment of the day, the security professionals are looking at what is happening, and they will advise us that there are certain areas you can't go to, there are certain places which are out of bounds, and if what's happening with Hezbollah in the north of Israel were to escalate more than it is now, it could mean a variety of different things. It could mean, like Aaron says, that we will change some of the accommodation and move some of the programming further away from the northern border. But it also could mean that it could, the program could be cancelled. It could be a variety of different things. So it's not a straightforward yes or no answer. It's something that we will take the advice of the security agencies that we work with. That's the first and foremost thing. The second is if they tell us there are parts of the country that we can still operate in safely, then the next question is can we still run a meaningful, fun educational program there? And if the answers to both of those are yes, then we will. If the answers to one or both of those are no, then obviously that is a point that we would have to cancel. But it's not an automatic trigger where if something happens, then then there's a knock-on effect, and it's an immediate yes or no, tour gets cancelled.
Someone asked, given the current situation, are Israel tours still actively encouraged by the Israeli government?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like anywhere which is marked green on the map by the Cheder Matzav, by the Home Front Command, etc. People are actively encouraged to carry on their everyday life, are actively encouraged to visit, to go out and about. So yeah, where it's not is in those areas around the northern border and around the Gaza border where we're not going to, where it is not actively encouraged. But outside of that, yeah, absolutely.
Someone asked if you could confirm that their children will not be participating in any domestic political activity that may be deemed controversial.
I'm assuming if we're talking about like going on protests or anything like that, absolutely not. Where as Josh, as you mentioned at the beginning, we're a pluralist youth movement. I know you focused that a little bit around like the Jewish pluralism, but we're also kind of like pluralists with regards to Israeli politics as well. We will want to, throughout the time that the young people are in Israel, is to expose them to different ideas, different narratives, to hear different opinions. But in terms of actively campaigning or going on any political rallies or marches or anything like that. Absolutely not. That's not something that we will be facilitating within the Israel Tour program.
Someone wants to know if they will visit the Hostage Square in Tel Aviv.
Yes, so all the groups will visit the Hostage Square, and we've run a preparation day for the tour guides to make sure that they have the tools needed to be able to guide there if they haven't already. The vast majority of them have also done birthright seminars, which have prepared them for that as well. But we've also added in some of our additional training. We hoped, obviously, that we wouldn't be visiting Hostage Square. We still hope that we won't be. But if it does still exist, then yes, all the groups will be visiting.
Someone's asked, is there a protocol of communication with parents if there are any sirens around the tour?
Adam, do you want to take this on?
Yeah, sure. So that's one of the areas that where UJA Israel Experience sort of step in. Every single day on tour for every youth movement is color coded depending on how things are going. It gets either a green, an amber, or a red rating, and depending on what that rating is, and there's different levels within that as well. There's a different communication procedure. So those communications are based on whether something is time sensitive and something needs to be sent out immediately, or whether it's more informational, or whether there's some sort of major incident that needs to be addressed. So if any group were heard a siren, had to go to a shelter, or were nearby any sort of incident over the course of tour, whether they were directly impacted or not, there would be some sort of communication that would go out, either in sort of the more minor cases where it's just something that to reassure parents, we're aware that X has happened in this area, but don't worry, all tours are safe. That might just go on the timestamp website, so you can check that. And that just to remind, that's across all UK tours as well. So you'll be able to see straight away that all UK tours are safe. If there's something a little bit more, you might get an email from FZY, you might get that a text message from FZY, or an email or a text message from UJA Israel Experience. Or even if it was something where someone was specifically impacted, you may even get a phone call. There is a big infrastructure in place with major incident planning that takes place with UJIA and the Jewish Agency. There's about 40 to 50 staff sort of on call over the summer in the UK to deal with communications if needed. And on top of that, across all of the youth movements with volunteers and things, and additional support like that, there's probably around about sort of 100 to 150 people that can be called upon in an emergency to support the UK community. We work very closely, of course, with CST and with all the communal organisations here in the UK, as well as those in Israel. And that's really our main focus, is to make sure that you as parents have that reassurance as soon as possible, as soon as we've confirmed what may or may not have happened, and that everyone is or isn't, what everyone's sort of status is, we'll pass that information on to you.
Could you confirm if there will be shelters in close proximity to all places where the tour stays?
Yes. In order to get a business license for not just for accommodation, but also for attractions or museums that the groups are visiting, in order to get an Israeli business license, and we only work with places which have that license, you need to have the requisite. Again, it depends on exactly which space, how many people are permitted to be in that space, fire regulations, things like that. But yes, there will always be a shelter, and more importantly, the participants will be shown and pointed towards where that shelter is when arriving. Certainly at every accommodation, they'll be told where the shelter is at the given accommodation, but also when they visit different sites and museums, that will be a part of the arrival process at those places as well.
And then so someone's asked if there will be a security guard with the group at all times, and if they'll be armed. Then I've also had another question, which I think links to it, is what will the security procedures be around Maccabiah, because it's a large group?
Yeah, so there's a security guard from an external security company. So it's a specific type of security guard license called a Mavtef Tlalim, a security guard specifically who does an extra long course to prepare them for groups such as these, being out and about with a group, and not just a guard at the entrance to a shopping center, but rather someone who's out and about with a group has a more extensive course that they go through, and they are armed. So there will be one of those with each group. With regards to the Maccabiah, again, Cheder Matzav, the situation room, has guidelines for different places that you visit, depending on how many people are there. So above a certain amount of people, you need, or in a certain area, you need a security guard and a first aider. If it's more than X number of people, then you might need a medic, as opposed to a chovesh, or a paramedic. In some places, if it's over a certain amount of people, you will need a doctor to be there, or extra security. So again, we don't decide those guidelines. These are guidelines which are set out for us and which we need to follow. So for the Maccabiah, they will be slightly different than for your day-to-day, but they will be as extensive as they would be on a day-to-day, just perhaps slightly different.
Someone's asked, when do the other Madrachim get announced for the other tours? And I can just take that one. So the first tour, it wasn't in chronological order, but tour 2 was announced on Thursday or Friday, I believe. And by the end of this week, we'll have all the tours announced. Yeah, so sometime this week, the other tours will be announced as well. So keep a lookout on the Instagram. And then the last question that I can see is, apart from the daily emails, we'll be able to follow a daily Instagram or Facebook group with updates.
Yes, yeah, for sure there will be. FZY has its own kind of like main channels on Facebook, on Instagram. In addition to that, there will be closed private tour groups that will be set up, probably on Instagram. It will be private, so you will need to be a parent or someone who, as the parents, or like known to either us, or known to the participant, known to the family, to be allowed onto that group. So yes, there will be, and they will be set up in the days before the Israel Tour program, and we'll make sure that we'll share those with you. So they'll be on our main channels, and then we'll have subsidiary ones as well for each of the tour groups. Great. Is that it, Josh?
There was someone asked if someone says they're slightly worried about safety. Well, I would say that. Do you want to take that one?
Yeah. So yeah, I think what I would say is, I mean, I hope over the course of the last hour or so that we've been able to kind of go through kind of the procedures that we work according to, the policies that we have in place, the partner organizations and everything like that. We also recognize that that everyone has to feel comfortable to be able to send their child to Israel. We have been as transparent as we can since launch as to kind of like how we run the program, the organizations we work with, and everything to do with that. If there are people who are still feeling uncomfortable about this process, about sending their child, then that's a personal decision, and I think that's one that everyone needs to take on their own. What I do recommend, if there's anyone who does feel in that way and feels that they have been unable to get the answers that they were looking for this evening or anything like that, then please do reach out to us at the FZY office. We'll happily try to answer any questions that you may still have. But I think I'm not sure there's something specifically where we're going to be able to add on that, but like please do reach out to us like personally if there were things that you feel that we should still share or that we haven't done so yet. What I will do is I think we're going to try and close up this evening. I want to firstly thank you all for coming, for joining. If any of you did come late, then the recording will be on the FZY YouTube channel, so you can go back to watch it again from the beginning, or just take certain parts of that if you want to rehear any of those things. As I mentioned, please do reach out to us. We want to be open. We want to share with you as much as possible. Like we said at the beginning, this is Israel Tour is a partnership between FZY, UJA Israel Experience, and Tlalim, but it's also very much a partnership with you as well as the parents. We want to kind of like create one community together, that we're all going on this journey together. We are now 4 weeks away from our Israel tours leaving. We are very excited, as Adam mentioned. Our tour madrichim are coming to Israel in just a few. British tour madrichim are coming to Israel in just a few days for a week's worth of training. So the process is very much moving on. So thank you for trusting in us to have this journey with your children. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we're going to close the live stream now.